Mabuhay, this is Bob from Love Beyond the Sea. Do you have enough conflict in your relationship with the Filipina? I want to talk about conflict. That's something you know for sure you're going to have in a relationship like marriage. Please subscribe here. I want to get into the weeds of a relationship, so that would help you, have more confidence about being able to have a lasting relationship with a Filipina. I have an article I want to just say a few things from before getting a little personal, and that would be from NBCnews.com. It says, from ghosting to quiet quitting, we're avoiding quiet. That's not healthy. And they say we should all be leaning into conflict and conflict resolution. I don't have any problem with that. And it says here, by Andrew Reiner, author of Better Boys, Better Men, the New Masculinity That Creates Greater Courage and Emotional Resiliency. He says one of the topics that most chafes his college students when he teaches a seminar, Leading Lives That Matter, is family relationships, he says. Unfortunately, the usual way my students deal with these difficulties is through dreams of estrangement. As one of my students recently said, I can't wait until I'm financially independent enough that I can leave my family and all their baggage behind. This is symptomatic, he says, of a growing trend of conflict avoidance that manifests itself across the spectrum of interpersonal relationships. And he continues to talk about that. There's a lot of good things here. I wish I could read the whole thing, but I just can't. So I will talk about how I kind of deal with this in my own life in a situation I wasn't expecting when I got married. And it says here, I'm going to skip that part. There's just a lot of good stuff here. It talks about perfectionism. It says even our self-help culture can play a role. Jessica Noodleman shared on the website Collective World that her encounter with the self-love movement, never a good idea, motivated her to cut people out of her life who didn't, quote, feel good to be around, or who she thought didn't reciprocate the effort she made to maintain the relationship. I've talked a lot about self-love movement, the idea of self-love. I don't like that. We love ourselves enough. The problem is we love ourselves too much. We have to love each other, love other people more. And there's going to be a lot of that in a relationship. That comes down to the expectations I talk about. You're not always going to get your needs and the attention you want all the time in marriage. You're just not, because the other person has varied interests in their own life and so much time, and you need to give them interests for that. It's, again, not about self-fulfillment. It's about what you can bring to that relationship. And workplace consultant Amy Gallo said we become too conflict averse and that too many organizations don't have enough conflict. I hear people say, oh, I've been married for 3 or 4 years and we never have any arguments. To me, that's a huge red flag. I think they probably are avoiding conflict. Either the man is too controlling, therefore avoiding conflict, or the woman, and it could be reversed, but maybe the wife is just doesn't want to rock the boat, and maybe she's just afraid to say things, and then nothing gets solved. One person thinks everything is well, and it really isn't. The conflict is not a bad thing. And I'm just trying to find a good place here to find something else to talk about, because there's a lot of good snippets in here. And conflict, you're going to have conflict in a relationship. You can't avoid it. Now, I want to use my remaining time here as we talk about, do you have enough conflict in your relationship with a Filipina? Try to make conflict healthy. Try to look at an opportunity where you can anticipate there's going to be some conflict, to try to explain yourself very well and understand why she probably isn't going to agree with you. Sometimes you have to make tough decisions, and there will be conflict. And if you handle it the right way in time, it smooths over. Don't overcompensate by being controlling, dropping the hammer. Team players, like people that are married, need to know how to cooperate with each other. They have to learn how to compromise. No one likes to argue, and you don't have to really get into a conflict resolution system and argue necessarily and fight, but you do need to talk about why this is important to you and understand why it's important to her. It's always easier to understand our own thinking and our likes, and harder for a wife, because we think about ourselves more. In marriage, we need to turn that around. Money, you're going to argue about that with a Filipina or a non-Filipina. You're going to deal with that. Ask questions, of course. Try to find a way to make it work. Sometimes conflict can't be resolved in 10 minutes, and it may take a while. So you have to be comfortable in that interim time as you're trying to work through a situation, but don't try to avoid it. I just don't think that does any good. Some people just bottle it up inside and end up, exploding. Sex, for example, common cause of conflict, whether, different interest levels or time management or selfishness. But you're going to have to talk about that, and maybe you don't get everything the way you want it right away. But like I said, it doesn't all have to be resolved right away. But, in the bedroom too, there will be potential for conflict. Now, the situation that I've had to deal with is when I married my wife, I'm a morning person. I like getting up at 4 or 5. My wife and I now, because of her schedule, don't go to bed until 3 or 4. I don't like that. Never have. It's been several years. I had early retirement, and it still isn't any easier. My body just doesn't know how to cope with it. I'm just not that way. But my wife is the same way. She is a night owl, so somebody had to give, and I decided to give. But we still have some conflict with me trying to drag her into bed, because it's late, let's go. I'm saying I might as well just stay up because it's the time when I want to get up. And then I just sleep too late because my body's screwed up. And then later, halfway through the day, I take a 3-hour nap because my body's all messed up. But so what I do is I talk to her about my needs and my preferences. And, she probably, needs to try to find ways to organize and squeeze out any excess air that, time spent that really isn't all that important, because she is still married and she's going to school. And so she stays up late, much later than I want to, but it's not going to be forever. Lord willing, this year she'll graduate with a degree in biotechnology, and I want to celebrate that with her so much. But it's hard, and there's frequently conflict. I'm going to try to do really good this year, give her the time and space, better than I did last year, and try to limit those times when I got to just keep trying to drag her into the bedroom. And, honey, it's time to go to bed. We got to go to bed now. I don't want to stay up this late. I can't. It's just, I don't like this. But I have to make my needs known. I can't just let her think everything's okay, because, she needs to be sympathetic to me. And, okay, well, I'll try to get up earlier. She said, try to get up right away and a little bit earlier so she can get a lot of schoolwork done before work, so that we can go to bed maybe 1:30. That sounds glorious to me. If we could do that, I'd like to go to bed at 9, to be honest with you. So it's a common source of conflict, but we're going to get through it, because I'm not going to try to make things worse. I'm going to try to give her space, communicate my needs, and just tough it out. Now, that's just a situation for me. Please leave comments. I should have said this earlier. How you have dealt with conflict in your relationship with a Filipina. It's very important. Please share that. But, there's no way around having conflict even with your love beyond the sea.